Well, we're at the last step now in terms of the Crusades. I'm going to summarize afterwards in the next video, but this is the last step. And the one really key point I would make here is when we're evaluating, don't do it too soon. So many projects fail because somebody slows down in the middle of it to evaluate the likelihood of success. The idea of a crusade is you set out at the beginning with your objective, and every effort, every sinew, every resource is put into achieving that objective, not halfway through stopping to work out whether you think you're going to get to 90% or 110%. So whatever you do, don't evaluate the outcome until you've got to the end, until you've passed that end date. Now, when it comes to evaluating it, there's only one thing for certain. You won't exactly have hit your objective. You'll either be beyond your objective and done even better, or you'll have missed by some area in it. And then the way to think of that is not in terms of we've either failed or succeeded, but the crusade itself, you can afford at this point to think of it as an experiment. You were trying things, you were using different resources, you were using different skills. And so now is the time to say, okay, what did we do really, really, really well? And I'm not even going to talk about the alternative. Just talk about what you did really, really well and what really worked, because that's the platform for your next crusade, and that's the thing you'll build on in terms of the next project, the next objective that you set. So it's those things you do really well that you really, really want to build on. The great thing about a crusade, again, is because it's short-term and low cost, you've made an investment that in most cases will now be paying off handsomely. To the extent that it hasn't, put it down to the cost of that experiment, put it down to the cost of learning in terms of how you've moved on. But what should you do now? Well, there is one great propensity for error here, is that people in the middle of a project, or even at the beginning, say something like, well, my objective is to build a website with 100,000 visitors, and then when I've done that, to sell the website to somebody else. Well, now you've got two objectives. The first is to build a website with 100,000 visitors, and the second is to sell it to someone else. And halfway through your crusade, if you're not careful, you'll move from the objective of creating the website to the objective of trying to sell it on afterwards. And that's why in the beginning I was so keen that you only have one objective and it's really clear. So now when you're evaluating is the time to say, right, I have created this thing of value. Now when you know what you created is the time to think about that. Moving on, the chances of the next phase of this project being using the same skills that you required to build it in the first place are literally non-existent. If you want to sell the business that you've created, that will require completely different skills. If you want to take it and consolidate it and make ongoing profit, that will require completely different skills. So it's only at this point where you know where you are and you know what you've achieved that you should take that step and think, right, this is what my plan is, to take that crusade and turn it into either an ongoing business, turn it into something that you're going to sell, or just plain shut it down, because even if you've been successful and you've made a certain amount of money, you might just decide that you don't want to carry on doing that. You now want to move into your next crusade. So now is the point for that evaluation.